Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Let's get this party started. Let's get this party started. Whew. Okay, if you are new here, hey Violet, if you are new here, I am reading a book about healing from narcissistic mothers. I am a child of a narcissistic mother, which caused me to be in a lot of different narcissistic relationships because I kept trying to repeat the same pattern with my mother, and I kept not getting what I needed from relationships. So I did a lot of self-reflection work, and now I am helping others so that you do not have to spend time in narcissistic relationships. So I help you. Huh? No, I'm not. So I help you learn how to spot common narcissistic manipulation tactics so that you can spot them before you get too far deep into the relationship and you are too enmeshed that you are unable to escape. Because we want to be able to escape from narcissistic abuse. And it does take a while to heal from narcissistic abuse. And it's been about 2 years since I separated from the last narcissist in my life that I needed to separate from, but I've been no contact with my mother since 2018. And going no contact with my mother and having my life improve so much, it helped me to see that I wasn't the problem, that she was the problem, and she was enjoying seeing me down in the dumps and not doing well, and really just she thrived off of my misery. And it was eye-opening to see how much better my life got once I excluded her from it. But I was still in a very toxic, narcissistic relationship with my husband, my ex-husband, because we're not married anymore. So he was the last one that I needed to get away from. And I read this book called Fair Play. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it was the very first book that I had read in a long time about the inconsistencies and the inequalities in husband and wife relationships in the home. And it helped me to open my eyes to see that there was a lot of inequality in my marriage, particularly in the financial department. Whereas I had been working for 10 years of our marriage, working sometimes 3 jobs, 7 days a week, while my husband at that time was working like part-time. Very unequal. So once I was able to spot the inequality, I started to disconnect from him emotionally, mentally, psychologically. And then I started to disconnect financially when I opened my own business and needed to have a separate business account. And ever since then, I have been learning more and more about narcissistic relationships and just trying to help others so that you guys don't repeat the same mistakes that I did. I spent the better part of 38 years of my life in abusive relationships, and nobody deserves that. You don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. So here I am, and I am still recovering because it is a long process. The body takes a long time to process and to recover, and so does the mind. I feel like my body started to recover a little bit slower, and my mind maybe started to recover a little bit quicker. But there's days where it shifts, that I feel really tired, and that's pretty normal for recovering from narcissistic abuse, where you just feel like you can sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep and never get enough. So if you are healing from narcissistic abuse, know that there is hope on the other side. You are not alone. There is a safe place for you to go and air out your grievances, or even ask questions about things that you may not know is narcissistic abuse, or if you don't know what financial abuse is, or emotional abuse, or verbal abuse, or those types of things. This is a place where you can learn all about that. I also own a mobile dog grooming business. So time after time, you will see me posting videos about the dogs that I groom. So there's a little bit of a break in between, the recovery of addiction, abuse, and all of that, with some cute little dogs in the mix. So if you like that, you're definitely in the right place. Alrighty, so we are on the last chapter of the book that I am reading, which is Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers. If you are just showing up tonight for the very first time and you would like to go back and read or listen to this book for free, you can go back to my playlist on YT under Mother-Daughter Narcissistic Dynamics, and you can find every single chapter underneath that playlist. But this is the last chapter in the book, and it's going to be dealing with filling the empty cup, ending the narcissistic legacy. There was some exercises and some different things that you could do to work on yourself, to figure out who you are, who you like, without thinking about what the narcissist would like for you to be, figuring out who you actually are, the things that you like, the things that you enjoy, the things that make you unique and you. That was, I want to say, chapter 10 and 11. So definitely go back to those chapters so that you can do those exercises in those chapters. But this is ending the narcissistic legacy. Trauma stored in the brain but denied by our conscious minds will always be visited on the next generation. In this chapter, you'll learn how to use your awareness of the narcissistic legacy and your desire to change it, to stop it from being passed along to your own children. Daughters of narcissistic mothers commonly express fears that they may have learned or acquired narcissistic traits that then adversely affect their most intimate relationships in the roles of mothers, lovers, and friends. Elan Golcombe in Trapped in the Mirror expresses this worrisome thought: if the parent has a narcissistic bent, the pressure to copy is strong. A look at parenting. For readers who have children, this topic is of great importance. Many women I've interviewed express fears about their own parenting. Young mothers are typically more optimistic about their parenting skills. But as they and their children get older, some women begin to see some familiar effects of narcissistic behavior in their children. Understandably, they begin to panic. I tried to do everything different from my mother in raising my own children, and we still had problems. What can I do now that they are becoming teens and young adults? Pleads Scarlett, who is now in her 50s. I see my children not being accountable for their behavior and using substance abuse as a way to numb feelings. This terrifies me. And I can even agree that this was something that I was particularly afraid of when I started to notice the lack of accountability and some substance use in my own children. But here's what I believe happened in my own past down to my children. Admittedly, this is my only perception, and my children may disagree. As I was growing up, I had pinpointed many things that I did not want to do as a parent and as an adult. I spent years studying child development and psychology to support me in changing generational patterns. From the moment my first child was born, I worked earnestly to parent differently. Despite all of this, I learned the hard way that how we behave in general shouts at our children, while our direct parenting interactions with them seem more like whispers. Even though I did everything I could to be as good a parent as possible, I still ended up modeling for them that I did not feel good within myself. This went on for a long period of time until I entered my intense recovery program. And of course, I never told my children that they were not good enough, nor did I ever believe that for a minute, but they saw in my very own struggle for worthiness how I viewed myself. It feels as if I inadvertently modeled that nasty message and so passed it on against my will. In my clinical research, I have seen the same with my own daughters. The behavior and attitude that we model for our children are of the utmost importance because we can unconsciously pass along negative beliefs and attitudes. Our own recovery as mothers is a must. I am dedicated to educating other women about the risk and necessity so that we can all work to eradicate the painful legacy of narcissism from our lives and from our children's lives. I am sure I have many other blind spots as a parent. My commitment to myself and my children is to keep all doors open for healing. I encourage you to do the same. To open the passageway for new understanding of each other is a great gift, one that most adult daughters could never become more than a dream because our own mothers could not be open to change. The good news is that it is entirely possible to change for our children and to change their legacy. Begin to assess your own parenting. Acknowledge the painful reality that it is impossible to be a child of a narcissist and not be somewhat impaired narcissistically. Anyone raised this way has probably acquired a few narcissistic traits. I know this is not what you want to hear. I had trouble admitting it to myself, but you must face this before you can attempt to remedy it. Remember that narcissism is a spectrum disorder. Full-blown narcissistic personality disorder sits at the extreme negative end of the continuum, but most people exist around the other end. So, one extreme to the next. Most people have some self-regard, and this is normal. When you begin to work on accountability in this area, you may find that no one around you is as supportive or reassuring as you would like. Your own inner voice may chime in and tell you that this is yet another sign of not being good enough. I want to be clear and supportive with you on this matter. Identifying your own narcissistic traits and working on them is responsible and self-nurturing. And it proves that you are taking care of yourself and your recovery seriously. The greatest gift that you can give yourself is to learn to manage and control your own feelings and behavior. Remember, your recovery is lifelong. You can't tie it to 1 minute or the next. There is no need to feel shame or guilt. You are taking yourself out of the victim and developing an adult self that is strong, self-resilient, and loving. A self that is quite good enough. You do not travel alone in your desire to be a good enough parent. Few things in life carry the responsibility and weight of being a mother. The same awareness and desire also carry forward into being a grandmother and a great grandmother. Your maternal instinct is to do right is a deep longing of the female soul. We all make mistakes and wish we could do better. When we make mistakes with our kids, it is difficult to let ourselves off the hook because the errors affect those that we love most. Even if you had no narcissism in your background, it would still be impossible to be a perfect parent. I have yet to meet one. In fact, if someone ever came to me in my role of mental health provider and claimed to be perfect in the parenting realm and claimed, I would likely grab the DSM and begin to assess some kind of delusional disorder. I will always remember the day that my best friend Kay said to me after discussing some parental mistakes we both made, I sure do like you better, Carol, now that you have taken yourself out of the race for Mother of the Year. Below are some key tools to parenting in a healthy manner without narcissism. Number 1, empathy. Hold on one second. My son's texting me. Okay, sorry. He was like, "Can you order me a sim mask?" Oh my gosh, Susan, thank you. I love you guys so much. You all are so sweet to me. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1, which is empathy. And if you don't exactly understand the difference between empathy and sympathy, because they're not the same thing, this is going to help you understand that empathy is different than sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone about what they're going through. Empathy is empathizing with the person and understanding what they are going through and connecting with them on the level of understanding of what they're going through, not feeling sorry for them. It is a level of understanding and compassion. Okay. Empathy tops my list as it is the cornerstone for love. Lack of empathy is, of course, a trademark of narcissistic mothers. Empathizing with your children is feeling what they are feeling and acknowledging those feelings. It is the art of compassion and sensitivity, as well as the ability to give moral support in whatever it is that they are experiencing. You do not have to agree with them, but you are there for them. You put aside your own feelings and thoughts for the moment and tune into their emotional needs to attempt to understand where they are coming from and why. Instead of citing rules or trying to give advice and direction, try this empathy exercise instead. To empathize involves identifying the feelings that your child is expressing and telling him or her that you recognize the feeling in the moment. I hear that you are angry. I hear that you are feeling sad. I see that you are very upset. Being able to show empathy to a child at any age makes him or her feel real as well as important as a person. This is difficult to do when a child is upset with you. Whenever you find your child's feelings to be threatening or upsetting, remember that empathizing is not agreeing. It is acknowledging a real feeling. For example, my 5-year-old daughter asked for a cookie before dinner. I said, "No, you can have one after dinner." In a typical 5-year-old manner, she then said, "I hate you, Nana." Well, I know she doesn't hate me, and so does she, but she was angry. And then she was angry that she did not get a cookie right then. And that was okay. I was able to say to her, "Honey, I know you don't hate your Nana, but you are mad right now because you want the cookie. And I understand that. I would like to have a cookie too right now, but we have to wait until after dinner." It is okay to talk about our mad feelings, though, and I am glad you told me. In this example, my granddaughter needed to feel validated and acknowledged that she was just fine. The temptation in situations like this is to get angry back at the child and even punish her, which only makes the child feel as if she has to stuff or muffle her own feelings. Your anger or punishment will also make the situation worse, and feelings will escalate. Older children and teens often are purposely disrespectful to you. In this situation, you do have to set boundaries, but in order for your child to feel heard, you still have to acknowledge the feelings behind the words. For example, an out of control teen may call her mother a derogatory name because she's angry and not being able to go to the mall, but the mother must set limits and consequences for this abusive behavior. At the same time, she can acknowledge the feeling that the child is upset. It is surprising to parents the first time they do this how effective it is in deflating kids' balloons of anger. The child can become more reasonable because she has been seen or heard. She has been given a voice. When my son was about 12 years old, he came home from school every day very angry and began throwing things around in a huff. When we later sat down to dinner, he picked up a plate and slammed it on the table. My first instinct was to tell him to knock it off and go to his room, but I said, "Honey, something must be terribly wrong. You seem very angry. Let's talk about what is wrong." This immediately deflated the big red balloon of anger, and he was able to express his feelings of being upset with his sister for something I can't even really remember. I now know and knew then that if I had sent him to his room or immediately punished him, this behavior would have escalated and we probably would never have gotten to his true feelings. Whatever he was angry about was much less important than acknowledging his feelings at the moment. He got to have a voice and to be heard, and I was rewarded by no broken dishes. Accountability, number two. Being accountable for your own feelings and behavior is vital to your mental health and peace of mind. As daughters of narcissistic mothers, what we saw most of the time was the blame game in action. Mother was typically not accountable for her behavior or feelings and projected them constantly onto us, and particularly, oh, sorry, constantly onto others and particularly onto us. When you are practicing accountability, you adopt a viewpoint that says, no matter what happens to me, it is my responsibility to manage my own feelings and behavior. No one can create my feelings, cause me to drink, force me to be aggressive towards others, make me depressed, make me hit or yell at my children, or drive too fast or follow or not follow the law. I make my own decisions and have choices about almost everything. I am only a victim if I choose to be one. It is also important to teach your children that they need to be accountable for their behavior. You do that by setting appropriate boundaries and limits for them and imposing safe, healthy consequences on them whenever they overstep these limits. You do not use harsh disciplinary techniques or anything that smacks of shame or humiliation. You provide and consistently enforce boundaries about right and wrong with consequences that are age appropriate. If children are not taught accountability for their actions, they grow up with a feeling of entitlement, which is a trait of narcissism. Entitlement. While it is important for our children to feel special in our eyes, it is not important for them to feel special in everyone else's eyes. It is imperative that they truly believe other people's needs are just as important as theirs. You can teach your children that by modeling respect for others and by teaching them to appreciate that each individual has his own special qualities to bring to the world. A child can learn to see himself as unique, but also as one of many people in a large community of human beings on earth. She does not have to stand out from the crowd to be fulfilled or have peace within. To ensure that you are not encouraging entitlement in your children, focus on guiding, directing, and assisting them in gathering a sense of consciousness about their place in the world. around them and their connection and responsibilities to others. Many parents seem to be pressuring their kids in academics and sports to be the best at all costs. This pressure to have and to achieve too often bypasses basic principles of personal accountability. Do not overrate your child's abilities or talents. Be realistic about her accomplishments and give her credit for what she does achieve. Be involved in her successes and praise her for what she accomplishes, but don't push her to the point that she feels not good enough for not living up to your expectations. This can create confusion, resentment, and a sense of entitlement in your child. Values. Teaching children values is crucial to their development, but of course, you first have to know what you believe in and what you don't. In talking to hundreds of people in psychotherapy sessions over the years, I am constantly amazed at how many folks don't know what to say when I ask them about their worldview or their value system. Since you've gone through your own recovery, however, you now have an understanding of your beliefs and values. I hope that you see how crucial it is to teach the importance of honesty, integrity, kindness, empathy, and compassion for others, forgiveness, healthy self esteem, and self care, and the difference between what is right and wrong. These days, many parents seem to pay more attention to how their child looks than how he or she treats others. The best way to teach a value system is to model it for your children. Show them that value matters by dealing with them and others honestly, kindly, compassionately, and with integrity. Teach them the importance of self respect and self care by taking good care of yourself. Use examples from the neighborhood, television, movies, school, and the daily news to discuss your own values. Whatever activity your child is involved in can become a classroom for teaching a value and modeling right from wrong. Be careful not to be harsh, critical, or judgmental. Simply express and show how you would handle a situation kindly, assertively, and with integrity. Make sure that your children's activities involve giving to others or helping in some way. At first, they may just learn to be helpful to others, and eventually they can perform work in the community. Giving back teaches that other people are important. Value their personhood, not only their accomplishments. Your love for your children needs to be based on who they are and not merely what they can do. As the daughter of a narcissistic mother, you were taught that what you did was more important than who you are. So you likely grew up feeling that your parents did not even know the real you. Know who your children are. Know what they like and dislike and what they are interested in, separate from you and your interests. Value their good heartedness and kindness, as well as their sense of humor and intelligence. Don't define them by what they do. My son, the soccer player, my daughter, the ballet dancer. If you allow your children's self esteem to be centered on their accomplishments, you are setting up another generation of achievement dependent narcissists who have to be stars to feel good about themselves. Give them credit where credit is due whenever they realize their goals or visions. Let them know that you are very proud of what they have done and that you will love them just as much if they do not become CEOs or star basketball players. When I was working on this book, an old friend called me to catch up. He told me that his son had just received a baseball scholarship for college, but talked more about his son's big heart than about his scholarship. My friend is proud of his son's accomplishment, but also really loves his son for who he is. What an artful balance. Authenticity. Encourage your child to be real. Authentic expression of self and feelings is the route to becoming a centered person. Robin, I am reading a book called Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers. We're literally on the last chapter. But if you like this kind of content, then you can go to, yes, thank you so much, Robin. You can go to my YT page and you can find all of the previous chapters underneath mother-daughter narcissistic dynamics. Hey, Sunshine. Okay. So, where's that at? Encourage your child to be real. Authentic expression of self and feelings is the route to becoming a centered person. We daughters learn to be fake in the narcissistic system. Don't pass the image, focus on to your kids. They can be appropriate and real as well as assertive and respectful of others and their boundaries. It is okay to be who you are, even if some people prefer something else. Not everyone has to like you or your children. Allowing authenticity means accepting your child's feelings and encouraging her to express them even if you disagree or they upset you. It means that you don't teach her to lie to look good or to deny what she perceives as real. No more elephants in the living room that no one discusses but everyone knows are there. Don't have dysfunctional family secrets and ask your child to keep them to himself. You can teach him that he does not have to lie to himself or others to keep up an image. We all know from painful experience how crazy making that is. I recently observed a mother tell her crying child, "We don't cry. People don't like sad children." The child quickly clammed up. It was obvious that this was a familiar message to her. The danger in doing this with children is that it teaches them to deny their feelings, sacrifice their true selves, and adopt an image that is acceptable to the parent. Guard against this in your communications with your children. If you pressure them to put on a facade, you leave them no choice but to believe that their true selves are unacceptable. Parental hierarchy. Your children are not supposed to be your friends. Keep boundaries between parents and children. All children are meant to be on the same level. Don't share adult information with them and overload them with your adult problems. Refer to the healthy family hierarchy in chapter 4. It is not your children's job to meet your needs. It is your job to meet theirs. Maintain appropriate boundaries for each person's separate space in the family and in the home. Respect each other's property and personal bodily space. Teach children how to say no in assertive ways so they are not walked over by others. This will help them develop a separate sense of self. Parenting a child is a monumental task, the most rewarding, yet the most difficult you may undertake. No one is doing it perfectly. That's just fine. If you are aware of the above factors, however, you allow yourself a healthier awareness than your parents when they were raising you. That in itself is a tremendous gift. Relationship with others. Narcissistic traits that you unwittingly acquired will also haunt you in your relationships with other adults. Recognize these traits so that you can get control of them. This will be difficult, but that does not mean that you are not a good person, nor does it mean that you are not good enough. Thank you so much for the gift, Gloria. It means that you are human and you have issues related to the painful, difficult childhood. As an adult, however, you want to become totally accountable, to take an honest look in the mirror. You can move past the pain and sadness and experience and allow yourself to grow emotionally and integrate the many complex parts of yourself. Hey, Mandolin. The internal mother as your guide. You can readily recognize your growth or lack thereof in love relationships because they trigger our innermost unmet needs. In love, we attempt to overcome past traumas, but usually we are looking to our love partners to give us the love that we lacked in our childhood. These attempts are misguided, but we repeat them until we complete recovery. This is what I was saying in the beginning of the live. This is why so many daughters of narcissistic mothers go through many failed relationships. Rely on your own internal mother. Learn to reparent and freshly parent the wounded child by allowing yourself to feel the self respect that your internal mother provides. Clean out the trauma so that positive new messages stay within you so that you can rely on the internal mother. Then you can adjust your relationship picker so that you are attracted to different kinds of appropriate lovers who are not dependent or codependent. If you need to work further on the internal mother, refer back to chapter 12. And again, those are on my YT if you want to go back to those chapters. Finding the love of your life. It is time now to throw away the old criteria for how you were choosing and behaving with love partners. If you are accustomed to listing image characteristics such as, is he good looking, is he financially well off, does he have an impressive job, does he drive a classy car, can he dance? Now is the time to start asking different questions. Is he good looking on the inside? Can he manage his own feelings and behavior like he manages his own company? Can he show and feel authentic feelings and display empathy? Can he genuinely love himself and me? Now that you are well along in the recovery trail, consider choosing a lifelong mate according to the following meaningful factors. If you are in a marriage or relationship, consider whether these factors are present enough. The reference to he below is for convenience only and does not imply that the information is only intended for heterosexual relationships. When you are with him, is he kind and compassionate? Does he act with integrity? Is he committed to and does he have the capacity for a lifetime of learning and growing with you? Is he capable of genuine empathy? Is he interested in working through pain and problems? Does he have his own personal style, life, interests, hobbies, and passions separate from yours? Are most of your values and worldviews of philosophies of life similar? Do you share common interests so that you can be playful and spend leisure time together that you both enjoy? Does he have a sense of humor? Does he use it without hostility, but with a good heart? Does he want to be your best friend and soulmate, and is he capable of being that? Does he act like your best friend? Does he talk about his feelings and yours, and is he in touch with his own emotional world? Can he handle ambivalence and shades of gray and not be too rigid about failures and weaknesses in you, himself, and others? Does he add to your soul life as well as your material life, thereby making your world a wonderful place to be when you are in it together? Does he bring out the best in you? Your recovery tasks in love relationships. Now that you are choosing a different kind of love relationship or working to enhance your current one, what do you have to be aware of in your own recovery? You can find that mate that matches the authentic love list, but unless you keep on the path of recovery, your relationship will be unhappy and unsatisfying. Here are some important tasks for relationship work. Remember to reciprocate. The relationship has to be give and take. And you need to be able to give and receive with grace and love. Your love for him is for the person that he is, not what he can do for you and what you can do for him. If or when your unfinished business with mother gets triggered, go back to the healing steps and work on them, fully owning that this is your work to do. And if he is interested in working on it with you, he is a prince for sure, but it is primarily your job. Let him know in the beginning that your trust was impaired in early childhood and that trust is a lifelong recovery issue for you. Continue to work on trust issues without projecting them onto him. Fight your own dependency needs so that you do not behave in dependent or codependent ways with him. Interdependency is a must for a healthy relationship. Keep boundaries around your personal space and encourage him to do the same as well. Allow each other privacy when needed. Whenever this is difficult, discuss it promptly. Be authentic and yourself at all times. Take care of yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. Expect him to do this as well, but know that you cannot control or demand it. Above all, be accountable for your own feelings and behaviors. If he is ever misguided and tells you that you are acting just like your mother, gently tell him never say that again. You and your friends. Choosing and keeping cherished friends can be a challenge for daughters of narcissistic mothers, but many of the keys in healthy relationships discussed above can apply to friendships too, especially the reciprocity, dependency, codependency, and boundaries. Reciprocity is essential to a healthy friendship. There has to be a give and take, just like in love relationships. This give and take does not have to always be at the same moment, but in general, there should be a balance. If one friend is always the giver and one is always the taker, their relationship is either dependent or codependent. If you happen to be going through a time when you know you cannot be reciprocal due to some life crisis or big project in which you are involved, let your friends know this. Don't be unfair to yourself and to them and give anyway if you are being drained by your own crises. Inform them and reassure them that you will be back to reciprocating when your crisis is over. The high achieving daughters have the most difficulty with this because they are used to being very busy and sometimes do not know how to handle this. They give up friendships because they feel too guilty at not being able to give all the time. This is not necessarily with good friends. Setting boundaries when hurtful things are said to you is important as well. To maintain an authentic friendship, you have to be able to respond to an offensive statement or action with, "That was hurtful to me," or "I would be more comfortable if you did not talk about this or do this right now." If your friend is alarmed or amazed, then you need to explain yourself and talk it through. Setting clear boundaries and discussing those boundaries are part of being authentic with the people that we care about. Many daughters of narcissistic mothers report they have difficulty with female friendships. The reason most cited is that women friends are more emotionally draining and have too many unrealistic expectations of the friendship. I believe that this reaction to female friends is a carryover from the narcissistic mother who is very entitled, needy, and demanding so much of the time. If a female friend begins to act like this, you may recoil and run for cover before exploring what is even going on. You may not be communicating well enough for the friend to understand your own needs and boundaries, or you may be choosing friends who are similar to your mother. In the latter case, you may need to start exploring new friendships with women who are emotionally strong and whose interests are similar to yours. Find women friends who can add to your life rather than drain you. Search for female friendships that offer a match to your strength and celebrate your authenticity and passions for life. Too often, daughters complain that other women are competitive and jealous, which may be a flashback to their childhood. Make sure that those friendships are not simply triggering an internal collapse before you write them off. But if the women are competitive and jealous, narcissistic, avoid them if possible. Find authentic female friends who celebrate you and allow you to celebrate them. Such women are a celestial gift and very much worth expanding the effort to find. Spending time around healthy people is a must. The mirror. Chances are you have been assessing yourself as you have read through this book, and you may have found some narcissistic traits on which you may need to work. Facing them honestly is very important for your recovery to be complete. You don't have to feel bad about them or not good enough. You just need to be held accountable. Below is a version of the 9 narcissistic traits listed in the DSM 5, the same traits you reviewed in regards to your mother. Let's look at the checklist. Am I narcissistically impaired? Number 1, do I exaggerate my accomplishments? Sorry, I had a little list there. And say I have done things that I have not. I don't. Do I act more important than others? No. So you can answer these on your own. You don't have to type it in the chat if you're uncomfortable. Just keep a running score for yourself. Am I unrealistic about my thoughts and desires regarding love, beauty, success, intelligence? I don't think I am. Do I seek power in those things? No. Do I believe that I am so special and unique that only the best institutions and the highest academic professionals could possibly understand me? Hold on, somebody's trying to go live with me. No, I don't. Do I need to be admired all the time to the point of excess? No. Do I have a sense of entitlement and expect to be treated differently and with more status than others? No. Do I exploit others to get what I want or need? I can attest that I do sometimes do that. Do I lack empathy and therefore never see what others are feeling or needing? I can say that I sometimes do that. Can I put myself in other people's shoes? I do and can. Can I show empathy? Yes, I can and do. Am I jealous and competitive with others or unreasonably without logic think that others are jealous of me? No. Am I a haughty person who acts arrogant and better than with my friends, colleagues, and families? No. So out of the, oh, she adds one more, and I could add one more. Am I capable of authentic love? So out of the 10, I feel like I answered yes to only 2. You can type in the chat what you answered or don't if you're not comfortable. Very few daughters of narcissistic mothers would answer all of these questions in the affirmative, but you may see some areas that fit you. Use this list as a measuring stick for your own personal growth. The 2 most important attributes for a healthy self and for motherhood are the ability to love and show empathy. So what I'm seeing for myself is that I lack empathy, and therefore I don't see what others might need or feel. And I definitely feel like that's something that I can work on and should be working on. So I will hold myself accountable for that and figure out how to be better at that. Most daughters possess an innate maternal instinct, even though they may feel the need to polish it. You are on your way to recovery. You have faced your past and yourself honestly with a sense of urgency. By now, you have experienced old pain and the dawn of a new freedom from your past, as well as the freedom to become yourself. You know that you cannot heal the things you cannot feel, and you have opened yourself to a new fearless way of thinking and living your life. You know how to express yourself and your needs directly and clearly. You have freed yourself from unrealistic expectations and can follow your own values and passions. My heart will always be with you as you continue on your lifelong path of recovery and discovery. That's it. That's the end of the book. This was a very, very good book. I also have another one. It's an Audible, and it's called You're Not Crazy, It's Your Mother. And it's basically about, having a narcissistic mother and that sort of thing, and that it's not you. it was the way that, you were brought up. But we're not going to go on to that book, not yet, because on Sunday we are going to be starting this book by Sherry Frankie, The House of My Mother. I know that Sherry Frankie had a narcissistic mother. I know that there are some aspects in her book that we can trace back to narcissistic personality disorder. So that is the reason why I bought the book, because like I said, my channel is going to start becoming more about narcissistic abuse, not necessarily DV, but recovery, addiction, and those kinds of things. So I want to stick to the same patterns. So we are going to be talking about a lot of things that are related to narcissism, abuse, recovery, and that kind of thing. And this book fits the bill because we all know that Ruby Frankie had a lot of issues, and that the other lady that she was working with, I'm pretty sure she was a narcissist too. But it's going to be very interesting to read this book. If you have not read it and you have been interested in reading it, we will be starting that book on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right. I think that's the deal, Waffles, because everyone, like I've mentioned before, everyone has a slight bit of narcissism in them. Nobody is perfect, right? Narcissism is such a spectrum disorder, kind of like ADD and autism. There's barely any symptoms, and has all the symptoms. So there can be some days where we show more symptoms and characteristic traits than we do on other days. But the general consensus is most of the time that when you're displaying one or two characteristics in a day, that you don't necessarily have narcissistic personality disorder, right? Because in order to be considered to have narcissistic personality disorder, that would mean that you would be displaying at least 6 of those characteristic traits every single day, at least 6. So if you are not expressing at least 6 to all 10 of them, then the likelihood that you are, just out here being a full-blown narcissist is very low. And there's nothing actually wrong with displaying 1 or 2 narcissistic characteristic traits. It's when it is who you are, and that's all is this personality disorder. It was such a good book. It was such a good book. So the next one after the Sherry Frankie book is we'll just go over a little bit about what it is. But it is called You're Not Crazy, It's Your Mother. Damn it, I didn't mean to click on it like that. Okay. How do I find out? Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, we'll just look at the summary really quick. If you have difficult relationship with your mother, this audiobook might well hold the key as to why. If you feel torn, upset, or confused after contact with your mother, then you deserve to have the answers. And maybe that answer is that your mother has NPD. Find out if she does or not and what it means for you and for the rest of your life. Oh, we also talked about reading Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. Let me put this one on my wish list so that what I'm reading right now is I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. And it's about borderline personality disorder because a lot of times when you grow up with a narcissistic parent, 90% of the time you are going to experience borderline personality disorder in your, from 17 to like 32. That's what I'm finding out. There is a lot of really good information in that book as well if it's something that you're interested in taking a listen to as a group. Let's see what else I have. Okay, so I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. I also have The Gift of Fear. I just finished Recovering from Emotionally Mature Parents, Anti-Fragile, The Courage to Be Disliked, Mother Hunger, Super Communicators, How to Talk to Anyone. I have a lot of really good books that are on my to read list. I have a ton. I've also finished a lot of books. The codependency book was also really good. There was another book that I read called When to Walk Away. I feel like that book was also very, very informative. But I've got a lot of books on my roster that we can go through and we can listen together and read together and have discussions about that are all based in, relationships, having better relationships with yourself, and communication skills, and those kinds of things. So, but I'm going to go for now. I need to take a shower. And I am not going to be here tomorrow, but we'll be back on Sunday so that we can start on The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. You guys have a wonderful night. Oops.